Good afternoon, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Harbour Subcommittee. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded and will be made available for viewing through our Council's website. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones, switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting, writing speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute. If you're in the hall, you can do this through your iPhone or iPad or a hand. Please do not repeat any contributions already made by others. No material should be posted in the chat function if it is intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be taken by roll call. If a member has to leave the meeting, please enter leave in the Teams. Please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then join when you rejoin the meeting so we can keep a track on whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly, taking their time and speaking directly into the microphone when making contributions. When referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. We have several important items to consider today, and I appreciate we will deal with them quickly and efficiently. So item 1, Sedgwick apologies and Chair's approval of remote participation, which I approve, but I'll also add that we have an observer today, which is Councillor Thompson. I'll allow him to address the meeting and ask questions, but he won't be able to take a vote today if we come to a vote. And over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Chair. We've got 5 members present in total, 4 members present in the Council chambers at Kirkcudbright, being the Chair, Councillors Dashper, Hagman and Stitt, and 1 member present on Teams being Councillor Malcolm Johnston. And as the Chair mentioned, we've got Councillor Thompson in attendance in the chambers.
Thanks for that, Tracy. Item number 2, members, declarations of interest. Do any members have any interest to declare? I see no hands going up. So members, can we move on to item 3, which is the minutes of our previous meeting, which was the 14th of June 2023. These are for noting. Do I have any movers and seconders? Happy to note from Katie and seconded by Ben. And then members, on to item number 4, which is the Harbour Service, Stranraer Harbour Review Revision Order. Report by Head of Neighbourhood Services. Members are asked to 1. Note the current position with the Dumfries and Galloway Council Stranraer Harbour Revision Order, as detailed in paragraphs 3.1 to 4.4. 2. Agree to receive a verbal update on the current status of the submission to. Sorry, I've not got my glasses with me today. The submission of the Dumfries and Galloway Council Stranraer Harbour Revision Order. And 3. Note the progress on the development of the associated directions as detailed in paragraphs 4.5 to 4.7. I'll open it up to members. Councillor Dashper.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I congratulate the team on the hard work that's gone into the Harbour Revision Order. It looks really, really detailed. It mentions the Harbour Limits Plan. I've read this agenda item and I don't see that the limits plan is attached. It would have been quite useful just to re-go over that with like a visual image or something like that. 4.3 talks about what's happening with Transport Scotland and the plans. It's in sort of limbo at the moment, it seems, until we hear back from them. The end of that paragraph says a verbal update will be provided at the subcommittee. Can we get a written update as well on respect to that when we do hear back from them? Also, it says in 4.4 about the relation with Stena Line and what's happening there. I know that East Pier is a big issue in Stranraer at the moment, and in regards to the future of that, is there, if anything happens to the East Pier, does that change or affect the Harbour Revision Order or anything like that in regards to the future? Thanks.
Thanks for that, Ben. Officers, James, Paul.
The East Pier is out with anything to do with the Harbour Revision Order or the proposed statutory harbour area. It will remain under Stena's lease. So anything that happens on East Pier or with East Pier or indeed Ross Pier is nothing to do with the Harbour Revision Order or within the proposed statutory harbour area limit. So it doesn't affect, one will not affect the other in any way, shape or form.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Paul. Members, I skipped a phase in this because I don't have their notes in front of me. I never invited the officers to come in and give us a briefing on this.
That's fine. We've actually got Jackie Holland, I notice, in attendance as well from the Legal Services Manager, so she can add to this or answer if she so desires. Hi, Jackie. I can see you on the screen now. I don't know if you wanted to give a verbal update on the most recent correspondence we had from Transport Scotland.
Yes, thanks, James. I can do that. And through you, Chair, if that's all right. We've got nothing to add, really. We've submitted the draft Harbour Revision Order to Transport Scotland. They're currently going through it. They'll come back periodically with the odd question, and we're in the process of answering some of those questions for them. Once they're satisfied, they will then let us know that we can submit it formally, and then the consultation will start. And that's about as much as I can tell you at the moment.
Thanks for that. Have James or Paul got anything to add to that? Nope. Not a problem. Then I've got a question from Councillor Hagman, please.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, yeah, I was sort of waiting for a verbal update because it was in the recommendations, and just, you know, to repeat what's in the paper, that there's nothing more. I was going to suggest, appreciate we've just noted the minutes from the last time, but when we got a verbal update, that was then appended to the minute. So it would be really useful to get, even if, you know, the minute says that a verbal update will be given, and we've agreed to receive a verbal update, that verbal update might, well, it was, there's nothing new, but I think it's still important to be able to, you know, see that decision-making process. So can we get that also appended to the minute going forward? And if there is correspondence going from the Council to Transport Scotland, whether it's via yourself, Chair, that, you know, I think, as Councillor Dashper said, that we've got sight of that and that information is shared with the committee, because this is long-standing. Brilliant that we've got it finally submitted, but I am slightly concerned that that's not been formally submitted, because my understanding was that we were formally submitting it and that would kick-start the process. So can I just get clarification, did we not formally submit it on the 14th of June? Or the 28th of June?
We submitted it to Transport Scotland. We can't formally submit it until they intimate to us that they will accept that submission. And they won't do that until their own in-house legal service has looked at the HRO. It goes through a number of variations, really. We've got to have lengthy correspondence and conversations with Transport Scotland, which are mostly legal and boil down to interpretation of certain legislation, and then their lawyers will look at it. So we're really in their hands. There's not much more we can do just now, as I said, but at some point when they're happy, they will intimate to us that they're happy, and at that point we can formally submit it, and that's when the formal consultation will begin. I'm quite happy to keep you updated, and quite happy if you want Councillor Hagman to let you see some of the correspondence that we've been exchanging.
Thanks for that, Jackie. It would maybe be handy if that was circulated to all the members of this committee. And Councillor Hagman, would you like to come back?
Yeah, if I may, Chair, I think it would be prudent for yourself as Chair of the committee to potentially write to Transport Scotland and request that that work is done at pace, given the considerable length of time. Appreciate that might not all have sat with Transport Scotland, but now that we're in a position to make that plea direct to the department to, yeah, move it at pace would be useful.
Thanks, Councillor Hagman. I'm happy to do that and take that on. Can we add that to our minute, please? Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the members? I'm not seeing any. Oh, Councillor Johnson.
Thanks, and thanks for the update as far as it went, because this has been a long-standing problem. But I'm just looking at, it's page 18, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7 about the general directions. And when I got to 4.7, it was wondering what is the issue with implementing general directions for Kirkcudbright at the moment?
Officers?
We have the powers to implement harbour directions at Kirkcudbright. It would need a full consultation process prior to doing so. And I was going to use the experience of and the draft we gained from doing the ones at Stranraer prior to implementing the ones at Kirkcudbright. It's also done on a risk assessed basis. So at Kirkcudbright, the activity is generally lower than at Stranraer, with less variety, and therefore the general directions would need to be tailored to that activity and that risk. It's much lower, so therefore I put it on a lower priority than getting in the ones at Stranraer. Obviously, we can't put the ones in at Stranraer until we have the statutory harbour authority established. So I was trying to prioritise the work on a risk basis, and therefore I was going to do the Kirkcudbright ones after the ones at Stranraer, based upon the experience of learning of the consultation from Stranraer. But there, we can put harbour directions in at Kirkcudbright, and the intention is to do so, but I was going to do the Stranraer ones first. It's that simple, based upon risk.
Thanks for that, Paul. Councillor Johnson, would you like to come back on that one?
No, that's fine, but equally, if it's actually simpler to do it at Kirkcudbright, you could use the lessons learned from Kirkcudbright for Stranraer. You know, I just don't really see what's holding us. Apart from anything else, I think it comes up later in the papers. There's a thing about one of the reviews about the website, and I know as a sailor that having harbour directions and things it's incredibly helpful. Particularly if you've never been to the harbour before, and I would flag up, as I've probably done repeatedly, the arrangements and the harbour area open as a very good example of where I think we would probably hope to end up. But thank you for that update.
Thanks for that, Councillor Johnson. Do we have any other members wishing to speak? Nope. Not a problem. So members, go to the recommendations, which are 2.1. Note the current position with the Dumfries and Galloway Council Stranraer Harbour Revision Order as detailed in paragraphs 3.1 to 4.4. Are we happy to note? Yes. 2.2, we've already agreed and we've already received a verbal update on the current status of the submission of the Dumfries and Galloway Council Stranraer Harbour Revision Order. And 2.3, note the process on the development of the associated general directions as detailed in paragraphs 4.5 to 4.7. Are we happy to note? Councillor Hagman.
Yep, no, happy to note and agree those with the additional recommendation that the verbal update is appended to the minute and that we take forward correspondence via yourself as chair to write to Transport Scotland to urge that the work is done at pace.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hagman. We'll have that put in the minute. So members, moving on to item number 5. Port Marine Safety Code Review, audit undertaken by the designated person, update report by the Head of Neighbourhood Services. Let me just open this report, sorry members. Members are asked to note the Port Marine Safety Code compliance audit undertaken in the 30th of May, 1st of June 2023, contained in the Appendix 1. 2.2, note the progress on the actions contained within the compliance audit contained in Appendix 2. 2.3, approve the Marine Safety Plan for 2024 as detailed in paragraphs 4.6 to 4.7 and contained within Appendix 3. And finally, 2.4, agree to receive further updates on progress within electronic monthly reports and at future meetings of this subcommittee as detailed in paragraph 4.8. Officers, do we have anything to add to this item? Our officers don't have anything to add. Members, do we have any questions? Councillor Hagman.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, we don't have William Heaps with us today, do we? And he's not submitted anything to go with his audit report, is that correct?
James.
So this audit report, if members remember, was actually undertaken just before we had the last committee. So William provided a verbal update on this report to the last committee. So this is us formally. So he'd just been to site, obviously 30th of May to the 1st of June. So his attendance at the previous subcommittee gave a verbal report on this. What we've taken from this, which is in Appendix 2, is the work that he's identified. We've tabularised and then shown where the progress has been made against that. So we can see that we've made significant progress on the majority of items within the Port Marine Safety Code audit that William undertook. I would add that the work that the items that the designated person has picked up, we're very much moving to. I wouldn't say crossing the T's and dotting the I's, but there's a lot of detail in the recommendations. They're not big ticket items in terms of we are compliant with the Port Marine Safety Code. It looks like there's a lot of things we still need to do, but actually the majority of them are kind of reasonably small things. But if there's any particular areas, or if Paul wants to maybe pick out sort of one or two of the bigger ones that we've addressed in terms of safety, I think that would be useful if that was acceptable to yourself, Chair, and to you, Councillor Hagman.
Thanks for that, James. Councillor Hagman, do you want to come back in, then we'll go to Paul?
Yep, no, that's fine. I appreciate there was a lot of outstanding actions, and I know it's been raised previously where they've been high, medium and low, and I know that at least two of the high ones have been completed. The third one, there's narrative around that. There's not the timescale attached. I know we have in the past said, a high priority should be completed within X, medium, X, low. I can't see it, and apologies if I've missed it in here. Often that's been captured in the covering report, but I can't see it there. So do we have a timescale of when we expect the medium or low priorities? Appreciate there is a capacity issue and we have to do prioritisation. Thanks.
James?
I'll answer that briefly, but I will pass the poll. Principally, we've gone through and addressed all the actions that have been identified within the audit undertaken, and certainly the high actions, as can be seen in from page 85 onwards. We've completed the high actions, is correct. Yeah. So yeah, I haven't got a timescale on it other than as soon as they became high actions for us, that was the main focus for Paul and the team to ensure these were addressed.
Thanks for that, James. Paul?
Can I just confirm you want me to give you a flavour of some of what we've tackled here?
Yes, please.
So the highest priority action identified in the audit was the use of permits for work such as hot works, welding, burning, cutting on the commercial quays by our harbour users. The main problem with the permit system that had been written into the marine safety management system was that it was quite bureaucratic, and we had a distinct trouble with our harbour users engaging with the permit system. They would just get on and do it and ignore the requirement for any permits to be put in place first. The primary reason for the permit to be in place is so that as the harbour, we are satisfied that the works are being done safely in accordance with all other harbour activity. It's up to the actual user that they undertake that work safely themselves. So I worked with the Health and Safety Department and the Council, and we came up with what we have called a harbour user agreement, which is signed on a biannual basis, and it provides all the safety information we think the harbour user should be considering before they conduct the works, and ensures they conduct the work in a safe area that doesn't conflict with other harbour users. That has been put in place, and all our commercial users, certainly in Kuberey, where the main priority for this to happen was, because that's where most of this activity happens, have signed up to it, and it is now in place. So we have a safe system that works in accordance with all the health and safety guidance and requirements of the council and the law, which is signed up to by our harbour users, and deconflicts works which have a risk to them with other harbour users. So that's in place. There was not an insignificant amount of work, but that was a top priority one, and that's done. So that's a flavour of what we had to do to achieve that. And that's just one of quite a lot of pickups that we've knocked off one by one based upon that priority risk-based analysis from high to low.
Thanks for that, Paul. Does that cover your question, Councillor Harkin?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's a really extensive report, and I know William has put a lot of work into that as well. If I may, Chair, through yourself, just ask an additional question, and I appreciate this is the Port Marine Safety Code review, and it's in reference to the audit that we did. However, I'm also aware, of recent history where we had the Health and Safety Executive come and do a sort of spot check at Stranraer, which then triggered a load of work in terms of safety within our harbours. Are we aware of Health and Safety Executive doing spot checks around our harbours at all? Are they still doing such things? Are we expecting? I mean, obviously, it might not be an announced visit, but do we still have those types of checks and balances in place?
James?
Generally, my understanding how the Health and Safety Executive works is they've obviously got a small number of officers that cover, inspectors that cover Scotland area, and they usually do a targeted approach on different high-risk industries. So from my point of view, obviously managing the waste service, we've recently had them inspecting 5 of our recycling centres. So they came to us with a targeted approach to be looking at waste facilities. I'm not aware of any direct targeting of harbour facilities and the like. They would obviously come if there was a particular incident or concerns have been raised by for example, a user or a member of the public or such like. But we would expect that if they were doing a targeted campaign on harbours, they would be in touch with us. But we're one of we have a small number of harbours around the whole country in comparison, and they may not even come to us anyway, even if they were looking at harbours in the future. So, but we've implemented measures at both our harbours that address some of their main concerns, which was principally interaction of, public and traffic and working environment, which has been removed at both our main harbours.
Thanks for that, James. Councillor Harkin, are we satisfied now? Excellent. Members, do we have any more questions? I'm not seeing anything coming in. So members, I'll push us to the recommendations. I'll not read them out fully this time. Are we happy to note 2.1? Noted. Note 2.2? Noted. Approve 2.3? Approved. And agree 2.4? And that's not a problem. Thank you, members. And we are now on to item number 6, which is the Harbour Service updated terms and conditions for use of council regional harbours, of the council's harbours. Report by Head of Services. This report provides members with the reasoning for the development of a revised set of terms and conditions for using the council harbours to address issues not covered by the current legal framework. It seeks approval from members to the consultation on these proposed terms and conditions ahead of the subcommittee approval of March 2024, ahead of implementation in 2024. Members are asked to note the background for a need to improve the current conditions relative to moorings and berthings in Appendix 1, as detailed in paragraphs 4.1 to 4.3. 2.2, scrutinise the new draft DGC Harbours Terms and Conditions, Appendix 2, for a use of the harbour which include improvement to the use of the harbour, payments and conduct. And then 2.3, agree to the Harbour Service undertaking further consultation with harbour users and other stakeholders prior to returning to this subcommittee in March 2024 for approval with subsequent implementation from 1st of April 2024. Officers?
Nothing further to add on that.
That's what that is. Members who have any questions? Councillor Dashper?
Thank you. I'm looking at 4.3, page 92, about the booking system. So one of the reasons we're updating our terms and conditions is to make the harbour safer and such, and by having the booking system, they'll be able to read those terms and conditions and understand them, and that's one of the reasons why we're putting in this booking system in place. It says at the end that booking and payment can be taken over the phone for those without computer access. I understand how that works, but then how does that work in terms of them agreeing to those terms and conditions? Because it's quite a lot of lengthy terms and conditions, and I don't think they're going to read all of that over the phone to them, if you get what I mean. So how would that operate? Thanks.
James?
Through yourself, Chair. I think, Councillor Dashwood, that's a very fair question, and one that we will have to have a think about, because clearly, when most of us, I would argue, sign up to terms and conditions for anything we agree to on the internet, we tick the box and we carry on quickly and probably don't fully read it. I'll have a chat with legal services and we'll report back on that. But I suspect that once the agreement's issued, we would have terms and conditions posted at the harbours as well. So it'd be for users coming in and providing that. I don't know whether Paul had anything else to add on that. So yeah, well, we can look at that one. Thank you.
Thank you.
For that, James. Would Jackie be able to give us an opinion on that at this moment in time?
I do apologise. Can you clarify what your query is, please?
Councillor Dashper?
Just in regards to customers who book the harbours over the telephone, how does that function in terms of them understanding the full terms and conditions for harbour usage? They're quite lengthy. I just can't imagine them all being read over the phone to them. It's just a little niggle question. Thank you.
Well, I mean, that's a practical issue. They should be, obviously, they'll be aware that there are terms and conditions attached. I don't know what the plan is and about how you're planning to advertise them. I imagine they'll be posted in the harbour, but also perhaps on the website as well. They should be directed to the terms and conditions.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Jackie. Thanks for that, Councillor Dashper. Members, do we have any more questions today? Stephen, sorry, Councillor Thompson.
Thanks. It's just, obviously, as an observer, I don't sit regularly in the Harbour Sub, but relatively fresh from Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee recently, we discussed about the principle of fees and charges. And one of the things that when I was reading through the papers I noticed by its absence was any mention of pass-through costs, particularly around electricity. And on the tour today we sort of learned a bit more about how the supply of electricity works across the various harbours and sites today. So I won't go into too much detail on that because it might reveal more than we should know. But it was really just to sort of, how do we account for that in these papers? Because, as I say, it's not mentioned. And also, it wouldn't be clear about how that would be communicated about the pass-through nature of some costs, but not maybe the berthing fees, for example, or any other associated costs. And similarly, in the glossary on page 102, again, it might be helpful just from a communication point of view if people using our harbour services were fully aware at the point of agreeing terms and conditions that part of that is that pass-through costs would be fully met by them and don't constitute part of a fee, which is a sort of separate charge, I think, if you see what I mean. So there's really just a few questions about how that would work with your indulgence, Chair. Thank you.
I'm happy to indulge Councillor Thompson. James?
Through yourself, Chair. Yeah, I think it's a fair point, and part of the reason, of course, why we're bringing draft terms and conditions to Harbour Sub, and we'll be taking the next few months to engage further on that, is to make them as robust as possible for when there are requirements. So what we're looking at doing is, as the report refers to, we're looking to go on an online booking system, which will reduce greatly the workload on the team to allow them to focus on more relevant stuff and less admin stuff, and that will allow terms and conditions to be signed up to, and the team are in the process of looking at the procurement of such a system at the moment. I will add that into an improvement action on the terms and conditions that we reflect that the costs won't cover the costs of electricity. Water supplied as part of the arrangements at the moment free of charge. There's not a charge on the water supply, We are looking at that as a future option, particularly for the larger vessels that may take on quite a lot of water. But for electricity, we can easily add into the terms and conditions that it's passed on, as we discussed on the tour, at the cost that we get charged at. So that's why electricity charges need to go up when our colleagues in energy management advise that these are the new rates for electricity charges. So we make no profit on that, but we need to cover our costs, which includes the maintenance costs of the billing system as well, because obviously we have an electronic billing system on the quayside for that. So it's part of that as well, but it's not a profit-making process.
Thanks for that, James. Well, thanks for that, James. A part of the maintenance cost that's built into these fees or charges, does that include the maintenance of the units like the ones we've seen today? Is that included in the charges?
A fraction of it is, yes. What we charge, I put a very small amount on the electricity supply, which covers a very small proportion of the maintenance charge, but not the whole amount. Right. Because it varies all the time, so it's impossible to predict, and I can't overcharge. So we make sure we cover some of it.
Thanks for that, Paul.
I was just going to say, but a significant maintenance charges. So if somebody ripped a bollard off the quayside, an electric bollard off the quayside, then obviously there would be we would recover the costs of that from the person causing the damage. That would be a different matter. But general maintenance will be met, and the capital investment was met by the authority, and in part actually from a grant funding a number of years ago was used to install at Kakubri the electricity and water bollards.
Thanks for that, James. Councillor Hagman?
Thank you, Chair. It's more of a sort of technical question. So we're being asked to agree that we undertake further consultation, and it's just to ask, are we going to follow our consultation guidance? Just because I'm aware that there's not a consultation mandate attached to this, which normally when we go out to consult, it goes through a governance process, it goes online under the consultations that are open, etc. So will this go through the due processes that other consultations in the councils have done and are ongoing?
Thanks, Councillor Hagman. James?
Through yourself, Chair. Councillor Hagman, I'm quite sure we can look at what the consultation guidance requires of us. In truth, I suspect that we understand that technically we don't need to fully consult on implementation of terms and conditions for the Harbour service. There isn't a requirement under that. We've done consultation for the Harbour Revision Order, for example, but we are going to do consultation. And we'll pull together a consultation guidance. Principally, the terms and conditions are going to be with our harbour users at the moment. That would be our main focus of consultation, because realistically it's not going to affect a lot of other people, and we're unlikely to get a lot of engagement. So I want to be mindful that we don't put a significant amount of effort into consulting to find that nobody engages with it because they don't see the relevance. But certainly between myself and Paul, we'll discuss how we're going to do that. Quite happy to share that with yourselves as well prior to undertaking that piece of work. But I think principally it's going to be with our harbour users at the 5 harbours.
So just to confirm, James, we've got no statutory obligation to consult on this?
I don't believe we have any statutory obligation to consult on our terms and conditions for our harbours, but that's not the way we want to work with our statutory obligations. There's no statutory obligation to comply with the Port Marine Safety Code. It's still only guidance. A lot of these things are, but it's best practice. We would want to engage with all our harbour users on this to ensure that. We need to be realistic, of course, Chair, that we might put things in the terms and conditions that some of our harbour users think, well, I don't like that. That doesn't mean it's not appropriate for us to do it. And the point of terms and conditions is if they're not prepared to comply with the terms and conditions, then they're not basically going to be able to use our harbours as a paying customer.
Thanks for that, James. Councillor Hammond wants to come back in, and then I'll take it to Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I appreciate that we don't have to consult, but we're being asked to agree that we will consult. So if we're going to agree, just that we follow our own practice, and I was just having a look at the burial ground strategy consultation for it. It's just a one-page document for that mandate as to why we're doing it. And again, it's just about that good governance. So we've got the paperwork that we can say, no, this was our consultation mandate, this is why we were doing it, etc. So I appreciate it's more paperwork, and I don't want to be adding to the level of bureaucracy, but it is also important that we have that paper trail as well. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hagman. Councillor Johnson.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just going to start off a little bit of consultation, perhaps, on the terms and conditions. And I'm looking at item 26, berth allocation, specifically berth 26.2. If I was a Harbour user, I would appreciate a bit of clarity about what actually constitutes the berth being vacant, for example, because trust me, it's happened to me. If you go away on a trip somewhere and come back and find another boat in your berth when you want to tie up, it can be irritating, to say the least. So there's just a wee item for your potentially for your consultation.
Thanks for that, Councillor Johnson. James.
Absolutely, and we can discuss that. I think what we'll do is, as Councillor Hagman has requested, we'll pull together a mandate on who we're going to consult with. I won't class today's committee as consulting with the Harbour subcommittee, but we will do that as part of the consultation mandate. And certainly, I know you'll have probably flicked through this at speed. But very welcomed, very happy to take more feedback from, experienced Harbour users like Councillor Johnson is going to be a benefit to improving the terms and conditions, is it not? So, yeah, we'll take it like that. That's fine.
Thanks for that, James. Councillor Johnson, would you like to come back in on that, or you're good? Not a problem. Members, do we have any more questions? Nope. When I read this, I thought there was quite a lot of stuff that it looks like good news. It looks like a positive way forward from what document we had. It was a little bit lacking, the previous document. So members, I'll go to recommendations, which is 2.1. Note the background for need to improve the council's the current conditions relative to the moorings and berthings. Appendix 1, detailed in paragraphs 4.1 to 4.3. Are we happy to note? Happy to note. 2.2, scrutinise the new draft DGC Harbours Terms and Conditions, Appendix 2, for use of the harbour, which includes improvement of the use of the harbour, payments and conduct. Are we happy to, we've scrutinised that. 2.3, agree to the Harbour Service undertaking further consultation with harbour users and other stakeholders prior to return to this subcommittee in March 2024 for approval, with subsequent implementation from 1st of April 2024. Are we happy to agree? Happy to agree. So members, we're on to our next item, which is item number 7, and that is any other business deemed urgent by the Chair. I've not had any business brought to me, so that is the meeting closed. Thank you for attending.